Thank you, Liz, very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to us today. I'm going to go over just some information about how to manage the extreme challenge of keeping in close touch and making connections with your loved one who is in residential care. And I want to thank Brandywine Living of Mahwah for sponsoring this program with us. We're very excited to be able to do that. All right, so my name is Sue Breithaupt. I am a licensed clinical social worker for many, many years. I do work in Valley Department of Community Health, and prior to that, I have worked in a few different environments, and in particular nursing facility, and I have worked very closely with many assisted living facilities. But in my long career, never ever have I experienced anything like we are experiencing right now. This pandemic has caused such havoc for so many. Really been a very, very stressful time, very scary time, especially if you do have a loved one in a nursing facility or an assisted living facility. It's been very overwhelming. Obviously, many of us have heard and read about the fact that the nursing facilities and assisted living facilities have experienced a very high fatality rate regarding this virus. The numbers are pretty staggering. I don't even want to go into them right now because that's not what this is about, but that is the reality of the situation. And the other issue, which is really more paramount today, is the risk of loneliness for people living in these facilities is very high anyway. And of course, this virus and all the restriction have just increased that so much. So it's been rough. So, again, the Center for Disease Control is talking about the number in facilities are on the rise by 177%. So when we had that sort of reprieve this summer and in the early fall, which felt good, we probably could get more connected with our loved ones in facilities. That obviously is different right now, and we have to be, following very close restrictions. Okay, so we're going to talk about how to deal with that. Okay, I'm going to go to my next slide if I can. Just give me a minute. All right. Okay, here we go. All right. So basically, the emotional toll is what we're really here to talk about. And of course, the emotional toll is high for the residents in these facilities, but it is just as high and sometimes even higher for those who have their loved ones living in these places. I have worked with a couple of different families around this issue, and I remember just recently, it was probably about a month ago when things weren't even as dire, I worked with a family and they had, the family had 4 daughters. Their mother is actually in a nursing home, not assisted living. But, the daughters were all talking about, different ways they were managing and handling this and what they were feeling. And one of the daughters was very scared and very anxious and just worried that, her mom made it through the first time and was concerned about this surge. Another daughter was talking about her anger, and I guess that's kind of her personality anyway. She was very angry. Another daughter was, feeling sort of guilty and scared. I remember talking about just, even though she knows her mom's in a good place, this is the way this has to be, she was experiencing a lot of guilt, that her mom was in such a precarious situation and that she's not able to support her as she usually does, by visits and seeing her much more often. And still another daughter, and probably all of them, were experiencing just a lot of sadness and just even grief. Again, we're at this age especially, we worry, when am I going to see this person again? Am I going to see, this person again? I can't do what I usually do. And we feel this way. This grief has been predominant for people in general. I can remember in the spring, I'm a kind of a healthcare worker inadvertently, and I can remember just experiencing tremendous grief, and the grief had to do with the things were changing, so different than life as we knew it was very different. And I do believe it's going to continue to stay a little different. But at the time, the grief was amazing. And that's exactly what, the daughters were talking about, is just dealing with this grief of not being able to do what they usually do. And of course, anticipatory, thinking that something would be going on with their mom. So it's been rough. And I highlight this because as human beings, we're usually very, very, we're not always willing to feel our feelings, quite honestly, experiencing these situations. And we may say, oh, yeah, I get it. This is what I am. But it's very, very hard to connect with our feelings. And a lot of times what happens is if we don't deal with our feelings, our emotional states, they deal with us. So, some people are complaining of insomnia. Some people can't eat, or they're eating too much, or they're drinking more than usual. Other people are having somatic complaints. A lot of people complaining of stomach issues, a lot of headaches. So just know yourself a little bit, because if you're not aware of it, you can't do a lot about things. So we're going to talk about the 3 A's today: awareness, acceptance, and action, okay, regarding these emotional issues. All right, so let me go to my next slide. Okay. So this is a simple exercise that I'd like you to, if you could, participate with me in this. If you have a pen and paper, maybe scribble some things down, or if you're using your tablet or phone, maybe write it in the notes page there. But I want you to take a deep breath with me, and I want you to count to 4 with me in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold that breath for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and slowly breathe out for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just let your body go a little bit. Okay, just that nice deep breath. Let it cleanse you, and I want you to take a moment to think about, your loved one in his or her facility right now, with the lack of visits, with what's going on. And if you can, just take a minute to write down a few feelings that come up when you actually, if you can, picture that person in your head. What you're feeling, or what you're feeling when you when you think about this virus and the person you love and not being able to see them. Just take a couple minutes to write those things down. If anybody wants to share about their experience, please feel free to to share in the chat box, the right side of your screen. All right, just take a couple minutes, if you will, or a minute. So many of it have described to me their experience, with doing this, to really, it's painful, it's difficult to think about these, that person in this situation, to think about this virus in general. A lot of people, when you get in touch with those feelings, it's not easy. And I'd love to say that just sort of, if you have a stiff upper lip and you get busy and you just think positive instead of focusing on that would be the answer, but it really isn't. When it comes to difficult feelings, and that's why you're on with us today, because you're finding this challenging. When it comes to difficult feelings, it's important that we get in touch with those feelings and we accept where we're at. And if to do that, we really have to process it. And basically what that is you sit with it. You sit with that challenge. And you can walk through it, and then it passes like a wave. You're in the ocean, and basically you can't always calm those waves. They're going to come at you, and when you're experiencing a challenging feeling, and many of us are, just want to kind of experience it. It comes in like a wave, goes out like a wave, and it's okay. It's important. It's a painful process, and it's necessary. I worked with a woman years ago, and this is not to do with the virus, but she struggled tremendously with insomnia, and she was going through a very stressful situation, but she couldn't sleep, and she would try to think her way out of the situation. She would try to count sheep and think of the capitals of the states, and would talk to herself about some of the things that we had talked about during our sessions and so on. And I kept saying to her, I think you are in a lot of pain. You are feeling a lot of sadness and grief right now. And maybe, just maybe, if you just, feel it in the middle of the night, as opposed to kind of talking yourself out of it or thinking something different, then you'll be able to get to sleep. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened for her. She laid there in bed, and instead of doing all those things and thinking all those thoughts, she just kind of allowed the feelings to come, and then they went. And they came again, and they went, and she was able to get to sleep. So it's a very simple process, but very, very challenging and can be profound. Okay. And then once we've accepted where we're at, kind of this is it, we're in the middle of a pandemic. My mother, husband, brother, whoever is in a facility, and I'm scared, and I cannot visit this person or see them as much as they would like, and kind of accept that and all the challenges that go with that. We can take some action. All right, then we can take some action and kind of, figure out what do we do with this issue at hand. All right. So how do we cope and therefore help our loved ones to cope? So the first thing I'm going to talk about regarding action is to make some thinking shifts. And like before I said, we can't just, we'd love to just say, well, I'm going to think of the positive and all that is great. It's not quite that simple, as I said. We just kind of have to process things. But then we can sit there and say, you know what, as much as I'm thinking, I'm not there for my loved one. I'm not there. I can't see my mom. This feels awful. A rephrase of that, a thinking shift. Once we accept that thought too, could be, I am protecting my loved one. I'm ensuring his or her safety by not visiting them right now, and which is sort of, it's more soothing. We feel a little more powerful because that's exactly what we're doing right now. The fact is we may be home a lot and think it's safe to go visit our loved one, but the fact is we do come in contact with so many more people than we think. So this is a rephrasing of that, kind of the thought of despair. Could be, I'm doing the right thing. Okay. Something as simple also as this is horrendous. It will never end. The pandemic is not, they're telling me 2022 now and so forth. We can frame that as, we will get through this. The vaccine is on its way and people are not quite as ill. And that is all true, guys. Especially I can tell you from working at the Valley Hospital, they're still very seriously ill. There are some people that have passed away, the surge, absolutely, but they are not quite as ill. And even the news, the dreaded news media outlets will report that as well. And those are the thoughts we want to kind of predominantly think at this point. Listen, the negative thoughts are going to come up. They're supposed to, that's human nature, and we can accept them and then sort of move on to, rephrase it, shifting that. We're going to talk about, I'm going to repeat this concept a couple more times. This is simple again, yet profound with effective results, but it takes practice. Thinking changes. It's not easy, but you can do it. Okay. All right, so in relation to that, a mindfulness-based stress reduction developer by the name of Dr. John Kabat-Zinn. He's from the University of Massachusetts. He is a psychologist who developed the MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, years ago, and it is just as it looks, just like it sounds like. It's a kind of meditation program that helps one to become more mindful and stay in the present. And he's got many different very helpful concepts related to this type of stress reduction. One of them is, in relation to what I've just been talking about, is something called getting unhooked. And really getting on, think of your as your negative thought. Think of, something in the middle of the night. Anyone ever do that, where in the middle of the night you're thinking of an altercation or an argument you had that day, and it can become something such as, oh, I have an anger problem, or I was wrong, or I'm not good enough. Or this person's out to get me. Whatever that negative thought is, it can hook us. Think about when you've had trouble getting to sleep and you're thinking and you're kind of perseverating about a negative, thought process. You think of it almost as like a hook, like it's hooked you, whatever that thinking is. I worked with a woman who really had a lot of hypochondriacal tendencies, and she was convinced she had a brain tumor. And she would let this thought just kind of rule her, and she couldn't sleep in the middle of the night. It really had hooked her. So what we want to do is we want to unhook ourselves from these thoughts. I've abandoned my loved one. I'm not a good daughter or husband, so forth and so on. One of the things that we can do to get unhooked and kind of release that hook, and if you can picture that in your brain, it's really helpful. One of the ways to do that is to actually see a stop sign. Just see a stop sign when you start with this thinking. Some people in the MBSR tradition, Dr. Kabat-Zinn suggests people see the word pause in capital letters. Just pause for a minute. Or maybe, if you use checks, you can picture a void sign on a check. Just to stop yourself. And it can be very helpful to kind of unhook you from that thought process. Still, another very similar idea is something called grounding, again, related to mindfulness. And grounding is simply focusing on each of your 5 senses. And, just for example, right now, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? Think of 2 things you're seeing. Maybe this PowerPoint, or the base of your computer, whatever. What are you seeing right now? Focus on that. What are you smelling right now? musty smell of your whatever office, something that's cooking. Just what are you smelling? What are you tasting? One thing that you're tasting, you just brush your teeth or just have lunch or had coffee. What are you doing there? What are you touching? You're using your sense of touch. Are you, touching your own hands or, the table that your computer or laptop is on? Take a moment there. And finally, what are you hearing? What are you hearing? You're listening to my voice, maybe the whir of the computer or the sound of a car going by. Just doing that simple exercise as you were focusing on your senses, you really weren't thinking about your negative thought. That's the idea around this. Grounding is actually proven to stop an anxiety attack, which are so uncomfortable, or to actually lower blood pressure and lower heart rate. So grounding is a very effective way to unhooking our thoughts and helping us in other ways as well. There's something else that Dr. Kabat-Zinn talks about called authenticating. And authenticating is thinking of a very pleasant memory or a memory where you felt very proud of yourself, very powerful, or just very happy. And just focusing on that, taking a few seconds. All of these ideas are just a few seconds. Thinking, what did I feel like? How did that make me feel? Maybe you go through the grounding exercise. You think about what you heard, saw, smelt, felt, and tasted at that time. But think about that time when you felt kind of, powerful, serene, happy. That can also unhook you. And simply observing your thoughts. This is a really helpful idea too. One such way we do that is, again, if you're thinking, something in general, I'm not a good daughter, or I'm not a good whatever loved one. You can sort of observe that thought and actually connect with how that feels. I'm not there enough for my mother. How does that make you feel? You kind of think about that for a minute. And then in your next thought, it can be, I'm having the thought that I don't feel like I'm not a good daughter, or I'm not there enough for my mother. I'm having that thought. Take a second, and then you can go to the next step. I'm noticing that I'm thinking that I'm not a good daughter. And you're observing, you're distancing yourself from that thought that has hooked you. It's really fascinating how effective this can be. And then lastly, just even changing your behavior in that moment. And something like that, just a very basic cognitive behavioral principle is, starting to vacuum if your thoughts are too powerful. Take a pace walk, or even if you can, run very fast. Do something physical to break yourself from the chain. Some people will splash cold water on their face. Years ago, people used to keep a rubber band around their wrist, and every time their thoughts became too negative or destructive, they would snap out of it, literally snap themselves. So changing behaviors also, these are very effective ways of getting unhooked. And I'm going to continue on this because obviously this is a very powerful issue, changing our thinking. So then we're going to talk a little bit about growth mindset as a way to cope with this situation, and it is related to our thinking. Growth mindset is thinking that is more flexible and fluid. This is a kind of a strategy developed by Stanford University psychologist, Dr. Carol Dweck. And basically what she talks about is just when we are thinking very negatively or feeling really awful, it's important to kind of come up with something different in our brains. Think of it in a more positive way. There's a lot of books, if you want to Google, on growth mindset. Very, very powerful. Again, some example of reframing, regarding the issue with our loved ones and them being in facilities and us not being there, is we can start to think, we are protecting, like I said, we are protecting our loved ones. The facilities that they are in, you chose these facilities. You did a lot of homework, I'm sure. You wanted them in the best place. These places are protecting your loved one as best they can. Years ago, remember, nursing homes weren't as, many years ago, nursing homes weren't, they weren't as kind of followed or, protected as they are now. They weren't as, and now they are, and they have to follow things, or assisted living have to follow very stringent principles, and they do, and rules. So remember that this will end. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. This is a bad surge. We didn't expect it to be this significant, but it will end. There is a vaccine that is a couple vaccines that have proven to be very effective, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It may not be as soon as we want, but again, we're thinking in terms of a growth mindset. And most importantly, we got through the spring. when we knew a lot less about this, we will get through this too. You know, for those of anybody who have lost people like myself, of course, that's, you know, hard to think in that fashion, but for those who possibly haven't, this is very encouraging. You know, I watched this commercial recently, and there was a woman, I think she was 101 years old or maybe older, and she was talking about the pandemic of 1918. And she was very young, obviously, when that occurred. But she said, you know what, she has kind of some memories of a lot of stress and a couple of things. And her mom, of course, and parents told her stories, but she got through it, you know, and that was, I thought, very powerful. Okay. All right. And I want you to remember regarding, you know, coping for yourself and for your loved ones, you know, they're taking your cue. And this is really important, you know, in so many words, we need to be as calm as possible ourselves, and then we can help our loved ones more. It's a very effective way, you know, to kind of manage this. And in general, you know, managing stress is a very powerful way, you know, to get through this difficult time. And remember, when I say this, your example of being calm and positive matters a great deal to your loved one, to the staff of the facility, you know, if they're in one, matters a great deal. Think about when you were younger, and I'll just give an example of what your teachers or your parents or someone significant in your life being very stressed or very upset. You know, maybe that, you know, that energy is like contagious. And the same thing with, you know, a positive energy. You know, I love Mr. Rogers' quote. You know, Mr. Rogers, the famous children's television program host, he would say when he was, you know, young and there'd be awful things, his mother would say to him, look to the helpers. And really what he meant, look to the strong people who are calm. So your loved ones are affected by your words, your attitude, and even your energy. So stress management is going to be a very, very effective thing, which we'll get into in a minute. You know, I love this quote, stop trying to calm the storm, calm yourself, the storm will pass. So having said that, we are going to talk a little bit in terms of coping with the situation about general stress management. I know you've read this a million times, especially during the pandemic, but I'm here to tell you that if you stick with a couple of these ideas to manage stress, you will feel better. We're working a lot with our staff at Valley, and you know, darned if there's not a couple of things here that people have been doing, especially since the first surge, and it's helped them tremendously. And these are people that have experienced trauma. So, you know, simple things. What does your doctor tell you all the time to do? Exercise, right? For everything. Exercise, helps everything, including, you know, obviously feeling physically stronger and getting in shape, losing weight, but most importantly, it can help your mood. And it can and get you to feel much calmer. It can help with memory, so it's really powerful. Journaling, I can't say this enough. Having maybe in your phone some notes if you're very connected to your device, but having a journal by your bed to, you know, scribble in what you're concerned about before bed or during the day or even in the morning. I use this tool a lot with people who are going through loss, you know, to talk about, you know, their journey and to, you know, to journal, to be able to vent at any time, and also to see their progress, you know, as they heal a little bit. This helps a lot with sleep too. If you've got a lot on your mind, you want a good night's sleep, write down what's on your mind. It's very effective. Connection. You know, obviously we're physically distant, but we're really not socially distant. And, you know, people have talked a lot about feeling isolated, and obviously that's what we're concerned about with our loved ones, but we, you know, should not be isolated either. We need to connect. There's a lot, you know, thank goodness, one of the positives of this day and age is that we're technologically advanced. And there's many ways which we can keep in touch, and I really encourage you to do that. Connecting with others. I mean, it's great you're even on here and joining as a group to listen to this. Very important. Treating your body well. You know, we've all talked about, you know, it's the pandemic, and, you know, I'm eating too much, I'm drinking too much, or so on and so on. And of course, we want to indulge a little bit. It's fun. Moderation is key, though, and putting good things in your body and exercising is really important. You know, eating too much chocolate and drinking caffeine before bed will affect your sleep. Drinking too much alcohol will affect your mood. You know, those types of things. Meditation, visualization, You know, again, whatever works for you, but I do know that meditation has been proven to be very effective in terms of stress management, you know, whatever that type of meditation is. I know I just mentioned a mindfulness-based stress reduction type of meditation. It's excellent. But even just breathing in the morning, focusing on your breath, just, you know, focusing on a beautiful picture. You know, there's tons of apps that you can download. There's tons of books online, or you can even grab from the library. Some libraries are open. I think it's a great thing to do. Along with that is some yoga, tai chi, those types of exercises, which are sort of physical exercises that are meditative, have been proven to be very helpful. A lot of people have turned to their spiritual life, their religious convictions to help them get through. You know, ironically, a lot of churches and synagogues aren't open now. However, there's a lot online, and some still are. So if that's what helps, I think it's a great idea, and it's been proven to be helpful. Creating, painting, sculpting, writing. You know, a lot of people have written short stories about this situation, or, you know, they're writing memoirs. Very, very healing. Limiting the news. Yeah, absolutely. We all, you know, can turn on, unfortunately, certain news stations and hear about the pandemic and a lot of other things all day long. But I promise you it's not serving you to overindulge on that. I worked with a psychiatrist years ago, and he said to me, you know, tell your patients, one of the first things I tell my people is, don't watch the news before bed if you want a good night's sleep. You know, watch the Golden Girls or Seinfeld, or, you know, listen to music, but don't do that. So limit the news. Gratitude. This is, you know, again, all these things sound very basic, but they're very powerful. Actually, University of North Carolina conducted a study, and it's a little older now. It's about a year old or so, but they conducted a study called 3 Good Things, and it was really interesting. The researchers worked with a lot of people, and they, you know, just had directed them via email to participate in the study and write down 3 good things, about an hour before bed actually, 3 good things that occurred for them that day, and what was their part in it? What was the people's part in it? Well, long story short, this study resulted in many excellent results. And what happened was that people that participated, a lot of them felt much less depressed. Some even got off their antidepressant medications. And the best news was, about a year and a half later, after doing this for about a month, year and a half later, they found a lot of people, their mood was still improved. So gratitude and writing down 3 good things, or 5 good things, or as many as you can prove very effective. And if you need more assistance, so what? A lot of virtual therapy going on right now, folks, or virtual support groups. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people have done that, and I really encourage it. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Another way to manage this situation is obviously just connecting with our loved ones as best we can. I know Brandywine's doing as much as they can to make that happen. For example, I think other facilities are as well. Whether it be through FaceTime, Zoom, WebEx, Skype, House Party, there's a lot of ways to connect with your loved one. I really encourage it. I think at Brandywine and other facilities, a lot of them have some tablets and some staff that who can help your loved one with that if this is something that they can't do themselves, so they don't have the devices. But I really encourage that. I know on Thanksgiving I did that with some family members, and it wasn't the same, but it was certainly manageable. And again, I'm grateful that it's now and that we can even do this. It's even available to us. Good old phone calls. Remember the visits on the phone? Those can still happen, and those are very effective. I remember my mom, lived. She had family in the Midwest, and when we were kids, every week at 11 o'clock when the rates would go down, she'd call her mom, and they would have these great visits, and they were very close, and they meant a lot. So we can do that. Good old snail mail, right? Sending some letters. Years ago, that's how people corresponded, and it still can happen. A lot of seniors enjoy writing, out some letters or receiving them for sure. Or care packages, that's been really popular now too. What joy for them and what joy for us to put them together, old photos, whatever. Okay. And Brandywine, I did speak with them, and they had talked about, they've got outdoor heaters for outdoor visits. They have this igloo dome, I'm sure you're aware of it, where, visits can take place. If, the visitors outside and by their pub area, they can, the person can be behind plexiglass and see their loved one. And again, they are providing some iPads for those who do not have devices to facilitate visitation. So there is a way to do this. And remember, most of all, in terms of coping, this generation is a very strong, resilient group, an amazing generation who have been through so much, so many things. And, they're 100% in a, they've shown up for their lives at 100% rate. So, they're survivors. And I've heard a lot of amazing stories about seniors who've done actually very well. So remember that, and you have this individual in a safe place. Okay. Another thing that you can do to empower yourself is communicate with staff. I think that's really important. Collaboration is key. Staff want to hear from you. They really need to hear from you. And, you need to be kept abreast of what's going on, the changes right now, who can visit, who can't. Changes a lot, as we've seen. It's very fluid, but you need to know that. If you can speak to one person consistently, sometimes that's best about your loved one. You'll get the more consistent information. That person would know your loved one more. Keep abreast of just the activities. There are some activities going on. How are the dinners? What is going on? Find out. Keep interested. Provide feedback to the staff. Make sure you speak your mind in a kind but assertive way. You can do that. I think that's needed right now. Again, ask about updates on COVID policies. Knowledge is power. The CDC has great information. AARP has really good information. I think it's good to keep abreast of this stuff. And if you can, just be as courteous and understanding as much as you can. In terms of working with people who are first responders or frontline staff. This has really been rough, and they need that support, and I know they appreciate it so much, and so many family members have been great about that. So, I wanted to end with a relaxation exercise. Again, I talked to you a little bit, in the beginning about that breathing exercise. I mentioned it's called 4-5-6 breathing. It's pretty effective for sleeping either, also just to breathe in slowly, for 4 seconds, hold for 5, slowly breathe out for 6, and it can be very effective. And you can, tap into that at any time, just as you can the grounding exercises, or, thinking of that unhooking when you get into negative thinking, or just focusing on, your feelings and sitting with that, and then kind of accepting and moving on, taking some action. So you can do all this. It's in your wheelhouse now. But I'm going to end with something, and I'll take questions, called a body scan. And again, you can do this before bed or, at any time. It only takes a couple minutes. That's okay. And we're just going to kind of breathe in, just slowly breathe in like we did before, in through our nose. Hold out through our mouths. Just feel your body, get a little more comfortable. And then we're just going to focus on our feet. Just notice your toes and your feet, the soles of your feet, your heels. Just be aware of and notice your calves. If your mind wanders, it's okay. Bring it back. Notice your shins and your calves and your knees. Your upper legs, the backs of your legs, the thigh of your legs. Your rear and your lower back. Let it go. Just notice it. Your lower stomach, your abdomen, your stomach, mid back now, upper back. Notice where all your internal organs are in your chest. Beautiful heart beating, beautiful soul. Your lungs, your shoulders, let them go. Just notice them. Your upper arms, your elbows. Just notice your forearms and your wrists. Try to feel or picture your hands, palms of your hand and your fingers. Just notice them. You can always bring your mind back. Notice your throat, sides of your neck, back of your neck. Move into your chin, your jaw. Just unclench your jaw, let it go. Notice it, your cheeks, ears, side of your head, your nose, and that crease between your eyebrows that we often have tense. Just notice it, let it go. Your forehead and the top of your head. Just notice and just let everything go. It's okay. We will get through this. Just take a deep breath with me again. Hold and slowly breathe out all the tension. For this moment, all is okay. And now if anyone has any questions, please, I'm so happy to answer. If I can help, I'd love to. Thank you.
Great, thanks. We're waiting for questions to come in. I can get some feedback, so maybe you want to mute your microphone.
Okay, thank you. Great idea.
Okay. I do have one person who expressed missing her loved one and hugs and talking to someone in person. But if there are any other questions, we'd love to hear.
Absolutely, of course, and that is just, it's so understandable. You're so not alone, and I hope that helps a little bit. You know, that is, it's rough. It almost feels palpable. You know, you can feel that loss, and I really understand that, as do many others. Hoping that's going to shift soon. Thank you for sharing that.